In this tutorial we will be creating the drawer unit. Most people actually find the most difficult part of the modelling process is where to start. So I personally ask myself three questions. What shape does that actual object best represent? So for example, an orange, a sphere, a banana, cylinder, or let's say a TV remote, a box. The second question is, what is the most dominating part of the object you're trying to model? So taking from our examples, the TV remote, the shell of the remote is the main part of the object. So that's where I would focus on first. So I would flesh out the majority of the shape and get the silhouette correct first, and then later on I will go more into detail, because it's a lot harder to actually fix any problems or work with a geometry if it's very heavy with polygons. Or a house, the walls are the most dominating part of the object, and then the windows would be secondary. And the last question is, what actually will you see in the scene? If it's an animation, say if the drawers, will you actually see inside the drawers? So will you have to model the drawers? It's just becoming really smart in when you're actually modeling an object. So first, I got some reference online, and this is the drawer units we will actually be modeling in this tutorial. So first, I'll be setting up our reference plane. This will help me get the proportions correct and get the correct scale. So in my front viewport, I'm going to zoom in. So to do this, again, it's Alt W. This will expand the viewport. And I'm going to turn off the grid here, pressing G. And firstly, I'm going to create a plane. Now, it doesn't matter about how big it is at the moment. We can change all that. But before I do anything, I'm going to actually set my unit size. So I'm working to real world scale. So customize, unit setup. And we're going to change this to centimeters. Yep, that's fine. And international. And just to double check, this should already be set up from my previous modeling files, but I'll just double check. So system unit setup, and it should be set to 1 unit equals 1.0 centimeters. And try to get it close to 1:1 scale as possible. And OK that, and OK that. So now I'm going to open my reference folder, and this will define how big my reference plane will be. But first, I'm just going to name this ref_plane. It's always, again, important to name your objects later on. If the scene's very cluttered, it's hard to find objects. So I'm going to close this, and I'm just going to go to my folder, reference, and this is the image I'm going to look at. So you can see here that it's quite low res, but we don't really need too much detail. We can model that later. So that the dimension is 493 by 493. So this is a 1:1 image. So all we need to do is make the plane 1:1. So I could make this 12 by 12, 15 by 15. But what I'm going to do is just double check this. I'm going to create 49.3 and 49.3. Sorry, 493, sorry, not 49.3, 493. There we go. And first, if you press M in the keyboard, this will open up your material editor. But we'll go more into the material editor in due time. But to open it without the hotkey is this button here, material editor. And we're just going to expand this. Sorry, take that away, sorry. Okay, it's not doing that. That's fine. and we're just going to bring out a standard. You may be seeing on your screen the actual a different screen than I am actually looking at. That's because I'm using the slate editor. You will probably be seeing by default the compact editor. I like to work in the slate editor because it's you can see multiple materials at once, and you're not restricted to only 6, but you can extend these later on. So if you just turn it into modes and slate editor, and that'll open this window here. So bring out a standard node, and in the diffuse color, this is the main color of the object you apply the material to. Just drag out, and bitmap. This will link an image file to your diffuse color. So I have saved it in this folder here and reference, and click there and open, and this will link the image directly to the diffuse color. And we can just close this up a little bit and assign material to selection. So select your reference plane, and in the material editor, this little node here, assign. And it won't show in your viewport. That's because you need to click on show shaded material in viewport. There we go. As you can see, since we've made the reference plane 1-to-1, there is no stretching on the image. So following my tips, we'll start with the middle object. So to break this down, the main dominating shape is a box. So we'll start with a box. Before we do that, I would just like to freeze this plane so I can no longer click or move. And also I would like to zero my reference plane to 0, 0, 0. So to do this is just click on the object, and down here, just right click. That will make it 0. Right click there and right click here. And all this will do, if you press G on the keyboard, that'll just center your reference plane to the 0 coordinates. And let's just move this up a bit. There we go. Turn off grids again, holding G. And in the front viewport, if you right click on your reference plane, object properties, and all you need to do is show frozen in grey, turn that off. If this is on and I freeze the object, okay, you can't see the reference. So I'll just right click and unfreeze all. Object properties again, and show frozen in grey, turn that off, and freeze. And there we go. So as you can see, I can no longer click my reference plane or move it around the viewport. So if we click on a create tab in the top right corner, and the geometry tab and standard primitives, and let's just grab a box. And I always usually start from the very top. And if you just zoom in a little bit and start underneath the edge lip there, and drag it from the corner and drag it all the way down, holding your left mouse button and dragging. And once you're ready, let go of your left mouse button, and using the scroll wheel, your middle button, hold that and hold Alt key, and this will allow you to rotate. So you can drag it out and make it a bit more wider. And left click to confirm. Now you can see here you get a weird shaded effect. This can be very annoying when you're modeling. So it's because it's unrealistic, so you see all the shadows. So just click on realistic and shaded, and this will turn off the shadows. And let's get this better color. Let's say grey. There we go. So now what we're going to do is add the edge loops into the geometry so we can create the drawers first. For this demonstration, I'll be creating the drawers just to show how I would actually go about creating the drawers, even though I'm not actually creating the geometry, which you won't actually see in the final scene. So the problem with this is I actually can't see where the drawers lie. This is because the geometry is blocking the reference plane. So to get around this is you can either press Alt X, which turns your object to see-through mode, or another way to do this is right click, Object Properties, and Visibility, or turn down the visibility or the see-through. Click on see-through there, and OK. Now right click this and turn to Editable Poly. This will allow you to edit the geometry of your object. So now what I'm going to do is click on this edge loop here. As you can see, if I press F3, that turns into wireframe mode. And I can ring this, or loop, sorry. Ring this, and I'll select all the edges on this side. So again, just clicking one and ring. Or the hotkey is Alt R. And the hotkey for loop, that's if I've selected this edge here, and if I want to go around the way, around here, I press loop. Ring, sorry. So with the edges selected, we'll hit connect. And what this will do is add an edge loop around your selected edges. Pressing F3 again out of wireframe mode and in the front viewport. So there is 4 drawers, so there will be an edge here, 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 and here. So that's 4 altogether. So going into vertex mode, that is hotkey 1 on the keyboard, or selecting vertex, and select all these vertex here and move them down and plane here, and select these vertex here, these vertex here, just move them down, and these vertex here, and I'll just eye this up a little bit better so it's underneath the edge lit. There we go. So next step is to actually create the extrusions inside the drawer. Now, the drawer isn't actually, if I just extrude now, if I just click the extrude button, the drawer itself won't actually end up like this. It will have an inset first, and then it will extrude inwards. You're only seeing the straight vertical line here is because the drawer face is actually covering the sides of the drawer itself. So first we will select these 4 polygon faces. We won't select here because this is the actual kickboard, not a part of any of the drawer. And press inset. And you can see it insets all at once. We don't actually want that. So if you select here and click, it will scroll through the different options. We want by polygon, which is selected now, but there's group again and by polygon. So let's just make this say 1.5 centimeters. And OK. And you can see now that the drawers can extrude in itself now. So I'm going to go into the left viewport, pressing L on the keyboard for left, and turn wireframe mode on. This will allow me to see inside the geometry. So F3 and extrude. And it will be extruding in the negative direction, so that it's going inwards. Excuse me. So let's just make this. Let's just make this 80, negative 80, and accept. Now I've actually made these drawers very, very long. So at the moment I'm just going to make them a little bit shorter. So pressing 1 on the keyboard, the vertex mode, and selecting all these vertex, including the vertex which I just extruded inwards, and in the x-axis, drag in the positive direction. There we go. So these drawers are a little bit more shallow. And turn off wireframe mode, pressing F3. And let's just have a look without X-ray mode turned on, so Alt-X to turn it back on. And let's just isolate the drawer unit, what we have built so far. Pressing this little toggle on and off here, isolate selection, or you can Alt-Q. Now we've got the basic shape of our drawer unit. In the next tutorial we will be creating the drawers itself, and we will be creating the edge lip, and we will be finalizing the shape, adding extra details such as the kickboard also, and if we are adding any feet at the bottom of the object.